We are rattling through this year's Rugby Championship. The team news is out. The Wallabies against the Pumas for the second week in a row coming up this weekend. So give me your views down below. What do you make of the two sets of matchday 23s that have been selected? I think there's some interesting bits in both of them, particularly from a Wallabies perspective. And also, just how big a game is this for both of these sides? Let me know. I think pretty massive. But welcome back to the channel. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. As I say, I think this is a big game for both of these sides. If you look at it from an Argentinian point of view, another defeat this week off the back of a game last week that you lose it at the death. You might feel like you should have won that game. If you were to lose again, then all the good work that was built up and the good feeling off the back of beating the All Blacks is undone a little bit. And you're looking at probably, most likely, another bottom half finish. As for Australia, win this game, and it's on, isn't it? 2 matches against the All Blacks, in with a shot of winning the title. What a turnaround, what a year it has been so far for Aussie rugby. Can they continue that momentum? It is not going to be easy against an Argentinian side that, for all their frustrations and inconsistencies in performances, you know how good they can be on their day. So another intriguing matchup ahead. I'll start off with Australia, because part of the the news from their team selection is injury. Injury has hit them again. So Len Ikitau and Tom Lynagh are both out. Fairly minor injuries by the sounds of things, but they're both out of the game. So Hunter Paisami and Tane Edmed come in to start. Paisami into the centres, Edmed at 10. And also Jeremy Williams has moved from the bench into the second row, and James Slipper comes into the front row. I think less concern about those changes in the forwards. Slipper and Jeremy Williams we've seen a lot of this year, almost at 150 appearances, by the way, for the Wallabies, James Slipper. But I think Len Ikitau has been excellent this year. Really good in that centre partnership, which has been growing between him and Joseph Suaalii. I think clearly they have really wanted to invest in that combination ahead of the World Cup in a couple of years, give those guys as much game time as possible, not move Suaalii around, which was some of the discussions, particularly off the back of the first test in the Lions series, where the argument was you want the ball in his hands more regularly, so put him at fullback maybe, somewhere like that. They've stuck in the centres, they've stuck with that combination, but now there is a change. And in terms of a personnel replacement, I don't think there's much concern. Hunter Paisami is another very good player that we haven't seen much of this year. I think Ikitau has been playing really well. It's a shame. It's a shame for the build-up of continuity and cohesion and continuity between him and Suaalii. But Paisami is a very good player. 10 is the jersey that has just been such an issue for Australia this year. Noah Lolesio picks up an injury which rules him out the whole year, basically. Tom Lynagh then gets the head injury in the final test against the Lions, which rules him out the start of the couple of matches against South Africa. Now he's picked up something else, so it's Tane Edmed that comes in, who we have seen this year a little bit. We also saw him against the Lions playing for the AUNZ team, the invitational team. So really exciting chance for him. James O'Connor, of course, is still part of the squad and has been played in South Africa. I think in particular with fly half, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, for O'Connor away in South Africa, give the jersey to the guy with experience who has done so much and played in so many different places and had so many different experiences throughout his rugby career. I think it is quite interesting that back on Aussie soil, it's Tane Edmed that they are going with. A younger guy, perhaps more of a look to the future there. Let's see how he's going to get on because, I think he's an exciting young player and quite the responsibility this weekend. The other thing that I wanted to mention really in terms of the Wallaby team news, rather than running through it name by name, is actually among the replacements. Lukan Salakai-Alotto, who, for anyone that watched the Lions series and wouldn't have seen him playing for the Wallabies, you would have seen him playing for, was it the Reds, the AUNZ team, and the First Nations and Pacifica team. He caused the Lions all sorts of problems in those games. He was front foot, aggressive, physical, and part of the frustration around the time of the Lions series was he looked exactly like the sort of player that the Wallabies could have done with, particularly in the first test and particularly with Will Skelton getting back up to speed. He wasn't involved, he was called into the squad for the Rugby Championship, and now he finally gets his opportunity. Of course, Will Skelton, who wasn't there last week either because he had to go back to La Rochelle, is absent once more. Tom Hooper and Jeremy Williams in the second row, both of whom I think are actually having really, really good years. But I'm intrigued by Salakai-Lotto because it's so clear, and it's still a really good Wallabies team without Will Skelton. But I think it's so obvious, isn't it, to all of us what Skelton brings to the Wallabies. Could Salakai-Lotto be the player that you also have in that squad that brings similar attributes, I suppose? And I think that could be quite key. So I'm excited to see how he goes. But outside of that, yes, they've got injuries. Yes, they've had issues juggling various players around all year. But you just feel like the Wallabies are not on an upwards trajectory at the moment. But having said all of that, does not mean that it is going to be easy this weekend. And Argentina, I think I've said on the channel already, it feels like they're becoming what France used to be, and that you just don't know what they're going to get from them. They are totally capable of winning this weekend. As I say, they'll feel they should have won last weekend. They've beaten the best teams in the world over the last few years, but they are inconsistent. They are categorically inconsistent. They make 3 changes. So Guido Petti comes in for Franco Molina on the bench, and Joaquim Oviedo in for Pablo Matera. Rodrigo Isgro is the change in the back line, in for Delgui. And so it's a funny one with Argentina. You look at that side, definitely capable of beating the Wallabies, I think, this weekend. And I suppose if we look back at the game last weekend where Argentina had the lead and they faded and faded, the Aussies chipped away at it and were able to win it in dramatic fashion. Huge credit to Australia for the way they executed with the clock in the red. But if you are Argentinian, you would be looking back at that game and thinking, how did we lose that? And I think it is losing control of it in the latter stages. And maybe that is why Molina and Matera are on the bench for this game. Matera always plays for Argentina, doesn't he? And it feels like he always plays 80 as well. I don't know what his average minutes is, but he gets through a lot of work. He is one of the emotional heartbeats of this team, along with someone like a Julian Montoya. But him coming off the bench, I suppose, gives you that impact later on, that experience and leadership later on in the game. Similar with Molina. I wonder why, if that is what Contaponi is looking at when you look at these changes, that it's the second half of the game, or certainly the final quarter of the game, that he needs more control, he needs more leadership and experience, and maybe cool heads out there. But if Argentina can produce some of the rugby we saw in Townsville, we're in for another great game. They score unbelievable tries. Some of the ones they scored against the Lions this year, and like they can be blockbuster. Rodrigo Isgro coming in for Delgui, another very good winger. Slightly different profile, I would suggest. I think Isgro is a bit more physical. Delgui has slightly better feet, but both really good players. And can Argentina bounce back? It has been one of those years, hasn't it, though, in this competition where, so what was it, the opening weekend, Australia beat South Africa, New Zealand beat Argentina, then those results flipped for the next weekend, then the Wallabies and New Zealand are winning again off the back of last weekend. Is it going to flip again? Is it going to be one of those where we're just going to bounce around and everyone's beating everyone? And it's possible. It is definitely possible. Give me your views on this game. If I was to stick my neck out, I would back the Wallabies at Allianz in Sydney, sold out, wind in their sails, a real kind of boon and positivity around the team. Be huge for them. I think if they could win this, put themselves in a position where you're looking at the final couple of rounds and saying the Wallabies could win the Rugby Championship here, or perhaps even bigger, the Wallabies could genuinely challenge for the Bledisloe, which has escaped them for decades now. It'd be huge. It'd be massive for Australian rugby. So let's see how they go. Will Argentina bounce back? Frankly, yes, maybe, because they are absolutely capable of it. We'll see what happens. Give me your views down below. Like the video as well. I appreciate you watching, and subscribe to the channel. If you're someone that watches regularly, you haven't subscribed yet, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button, but I will. See you in the next one.